Early life. Yashin was born in Moscow, in a Russian family of industrial workers. When he was 12, World War II forced him to work in a factory to support the war effort. However, his health at the age of 18, after he suffered a nervous breakdown, meant he was unable to work. Thus, he was sent to work in a military factory in Moscow. After being spotted playing for the factory team, he was invited to join the Dynamo Moscow youth team. Yashin's debut for Dynamo Moscow came in 1950 in a friendly match. It was not the debut he would have hoped for, as he conceded a soft goal scored straight from a clearance by the opposing keeper. That year he played in only 2 league games, and did not appear in a senior match again until 1953. But he remained determined, and stayed at Dynamo in the reserves waiting for another opportunity. Yashin also played goalie for the Dynamo ice hockey team during those early years of trying to break into the senior squad. He managed to win a USSR Ice Hockey Cup in 1953 and was third in the USSR Ice Hockey Championship as goalkeeper. He spent his entire professional football career with Dynamo Moscow, from 1950 to 1970, winning the USSR Football Championship 5 times and the Soviet Cup 3 times. Yashin's club teammate, rival and mentor was Alexei Tiger Khomich, the keeper of the Soviet national team, who had become famous for his role in Dynamo Moscow's British tour. He also internally rivaled goalkeeper Valter Sanaya, who left the club in 1953. In 1954, Yashin was called up to the Soviet national team, and would go on to gather 78 caps. With the national team he won the 1956 Summer Olympics as well as the first European Championship, the 1960 European Nations Cup. He also played in 3 World Cups, in 1958, 1962 and 1966. Yashin is credited with 4 clean sheets out of the 12 games he played in the World Cup finals. The 1958 World Cup, played in Sweden, put Yashin on the map for his performances, with the Soviet Union advancing to the quarterfinals. In a group stage match against the eventual Cup winners Brazil, the Soviet team lost 2-0. Facing a Brazil team that featured Garrincha and a 17-year-old Pelé in attack, Yashin's performance prevented the score from becoming a rout. Yashin was nominated for Ballon d'Or in 1960 and 1961 and placed 5th and 4th, respectively. In 1962, despite suffering 2 concussions during the tournament, he once again led the team to a quarter-final finish, before losing to host country Chile. That tournament showed that Yashin was all too human, having made some uncharacteristic mistakes. In the game against Colombia, which the Soviet Union was leading 4-1, Yashin let in a few soft goals, including a goal scored by Marcos Cole directly from a corner kick. It was the first and the only goal scored directly from a corner in FIFA World Cup history until Katie McCabe's goal in the match between Ireland and Canada at the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup. The Soviet Union's game against Colombia finished in a 4-4 tie, which led the French newspaper L'Équipe to predict the end of Yashin's career. He did, however, make an outstanding save against Chile in the quarterfinal. Despite this, the Soviet Union suffered a 2-1 defeat and were eliminated from the World Cup. Despite the disappointment of the 1962 World Cup, Yashin would bounce back to win the Ballon d'Or in December 1963. One of his best performances that year was the 1963 England v Rest of the World football match, where he made a number of spectacular saves. From that point onward he was known to the world as the Black Spider because he wore a distinctive all-black outfit and because it seemed as though he had 8 arms to save almost everything. But to his fans, he was always the fearless Black Panther. He often played wearing a cloth cap of burnt brick color. Yashin led the Soviet team to its best showing at the FIFA World Cup, a 4th place finish in the 1966 World Cup held in England. Always ready to give advice to his comrades, Yashin even made a 4th trip to the World Cup finals in 1970, held in Mexico, as the 3rd choice backup and an assistant coach. The Soviet team again reached the quarterfinals. In 1971, in Moscow, he played his last match for Dynamo Moscow. Lev Yashin's FIFA testimonial match was held at the Lenin Stadium in Moscow with 100,000 fans attending and a host of football stars, including Pelé, Eusebio, and Franz Beckenbauer. Style of play. Considered by many in the sport to be the greatest goalkeeper in the history of the game, Yashin was an imposing presence in goal due to his tall stature, and was highly regarded for his athleticism, agility, positional sense, bravery, and exceptional reflexes, which enabled him to produce acrobatic and spectacular saves. Yashin remains the only goalkeeper to have won the Ballon d'Or, in 1963. He also stopped 151 penalty kicks during his career, more than any other goalkeeper in history, and kept over 270 clean sheets. For his outstanding service to the people and to his country, Yashin was awarded the Order of Lenin in 1967, the highest award of the USSR. Yashin is known for revolutionizing the goalkeeping position. He shouted orders at his defenders, came off his line to intercept crosses, and also ran out to meet on-rushing attackers, done at a time when goalkeepers spent the 90 minutes standing in the goal waiting to be called into action. Yashin would always organize the defensive game of his team, often so fiercely that even his wife accused him of yelling too much on the pitch. He rarely captained his teams, as the later accepted custom of appointing a goalkeeper captain was virtually unheard of in that era, but his leadership on the field was always evident. Yashin was one of the goalkeepers who began the practice of punching balls out in difficult situations instead of trying to catch them. Other novel practices he developed were the quick throw of the ball to begin a counterattack, coming out of the penalty area to anticipate danger, and the command and organization of the defenders, practices now quite common among goalkeepers. When asked what his secret was, he would reply that the trick was to have a smoke to calm your nerves, then toss back a strong drink to tone your muscles. In 1994, FIFA established the Lev Yashin Award for the best goalkeeper at the World Cup finals. FIFA polls named Yashin as the sole goalkeeper and world team of the 20th century. World Soccer magazine named him in their 100 greatest players of the 20th century. Many commentators consider Yashin the best goalkeeper in the history of football, which has resulted in him being chosen to be the goalkeeper in most of the world all-time teams, including the FIFA World Cup all-time team and the FIFA Dream Team. In 2020 Yashin was named in the Ballon d'Or Dream Team, a greatest all-time 11. His peers would describe him as follows. On June 2018, France Football stated, Yashin revolutionized the role of goalkeeper like no other before him, by always being ready to act as an extra defender and by starting dangerous counterattacks with his positioning and quick throws. Brazilian football legend Eusebio said, Yashin was the peerless goalkeeper of the century. England legend Gordon Banks, voted the second greatest goalkeeper, behind Yashin, of the 20th century, said, Lev Yashin was first class, a real super goalkeeper. His positional play was excellent, but everything he did was top class. He was a model for goalkeeping for the next 10 to 15 years, without a doubt. I visualized myself doing some of the things he was doing, even though I was already playing in the top division. I used to learn from him. Post-playing career. After retiring from playing, Yashin spent almost 20 years in various administrative positions at Dynamo Moscow. A bronze statue of Lev Yashin was erected at the Dynamo Stadium in Moscow. In 1986, following a thrombophlebitis contracted while he was in Budapest, Yashin underwent the amputation of one of his legs. He died in 1990 of stomach cancer, despite a surgical intervention in an attempt to save his life. He was given a state funeral as a Soviet-honored Master of Sport. Yashin was survived by wife Valentina Timofeyevna and daughters Irina and Elena. When Russia hosted the 2018 FIFA World Cup, Valentina was still living in the Moscow apartment that the Soviet state had given her husband in 1964. Yashin has one granddaughter and one surviving grandson. Another grandson died in 2002 at age 14 from injuries suffered in a bicycle accident. The surviving grandson, Vasily Frolov, played as a goalkeeper in Dynamo's youth section and was on the books of the senior side, but never played a game with the senior side, retiring from play at age 23. He now runs a goalkeeper training school in Moscow near Spartak Moscow's current stadium. Yashin earned status for revolutionizing the goalkeeping position by imposing his authority on the entire defense. A vocal presence in goal, he shouted orders at his defenders, came off his line to intercept crosses and also ran out to meet on-rushing attackers, done at a time when goalkeepers spent the 90 minutes standing in the goal waiting to be called into action. His performances made an indelible impression on a global audience at the 1958 World Cup, the first to be broadcast internationally. He dressed head to toe in apparent black, in truth very dark blue, thus earning his nickname the Black Spider, which enhanced his popularity. Yashin appeared in 4 World Cups from 1958 to 1970, and in 2002 was chosen on the FIFA Dream Team of the history of World Cups. In 1994, he was chosen for the FIFA World Cup all-time team, and in 1998 was chosen as a member of the World Team of the 20th century. According to FIFA, Yashin saved over 150 penalty kicks in professional football, more than any other goalkeeper. He also kept over 270 clean sheets in his career, winning a gold medal at the 1956 Olympic football tournament, and the 1960 European Championships. In 1963, Yashin received the Ballon d'Or, the only goalkeeper ever to receive the award. He was additionally named posthumously to the Ballon d'Or Dream Team in 2020, a greatest all-time 11, and was voted the best goalkeeper of the 20th century by the IFs. In November 2003, to celebrate UEFA's Jubilee, he was selected as the Golden Player of Russia by the Russian Football Union as their most outstanding player of the past 50 years. In order for us to remember Yashin, I shall state some of his more famous statements. The first statement is, "What kind of a goalkeeper is the one who is not tormented by the goal he has allowed? He must be tormented. And if he is calm, that means the end. No matter what he had in the past, he has no future." The second statement is, "The joy of seeing Yuri Gagarin flying in space is only superseded by the joy of a good penalty save." The third statement is, "There have only been 2 world-class goalkeepers. One was Lev Yashin, the other was a German boy who played for Manchester City." The fourth statement is, "I am not the best goalkeeper in the world, it is Vladimir Berra." The fifth statement is, "Lev Yashin, upon receiving the award for Best Player in 1963, Yashin plays football better than me."
He was the popular symbol of Soviet football, recognized throughout the game as the greatest and most dominant of goalkeepers. Lev Yashin, the man in black, the impregnable last line of defense, as the Soviet Union shone in their first FIFA World Cup in 1958 and became the first European champions in 1960. A dedicated athlete who played for only one club, Dynamo Moscow, Yashin was the figurehead of the national team when they reached the World Cup semi-finals in 1966. Lev Yashin, loved and revered in football and mourned by the world when he died in 1990. Just one more timeless memory from the world's most popular sport.